Andrew Abbott, he kept the scoreboard tidy for 9 whole innings up in Cleveland, and he's screaming to make it to the All-Star game.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We're lifelong Reds fans. We're lifelong baseball fans. We've been talking about the Reds in podcast form for a combined 14 years now. We love talking Reds baseball with you. On today's show, Nick Lodolo is on the bump with a chance to nail down the Reds' second, yes, you heard me right, second consecutive sweep. We'll tell you what he needs to do to get it done a little bit later on the show. Whose contract should the Reds attempt to extend next? We'll discuss that here in just a few minutes. And Andrew Abbott looked like an ace yesterday as he dominated the Guardians lineup with a complete game shutout. We'll talk about his stellar outing on today's show. That's all coming up on this episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Jeff, let's start with the guy that we talked about yesterday, looking a little bit like the temporary ace of the Reds. Well, he looked like the ace of the Reds rotation in yesterday's outing because he went out 9 shutout innings, walked one guy through 110 pitches, and it was old school baseball day. I just finished saying less than 24 hours ago that he reminded me of Tom Browning, and that was a Tom Browning type start right there. Out there, nose to the grindstone, just getting it done.
You're just a couple of base runners away from being Tom Browning there, because that was an amazing performance, and he had great help with him, behind him with the defense. But honestly, Steve, that's the kind of pitching performance to me that is perfect for Andrew Abbott. I think maybe if you want to glean something from this, it's that if he's going to make another step, it's how to combine efficiency with strikeout numbers, because I don't feel like he can do both right now. But when he is efficient, man, he's shutting everybody down. There was like a couple of hard hit balls against him last night, but on the whole, he limited the contact. The average exit velocity was below league average for the entire game. There was a lot of moments there where I just felt like, man, this is the moment for Andrew Abbott to really step up and show who he is in the absence of Hunter Green. But even more so than that, I think he made a real good case to be a part of the Midsummer Classic and go to the All-Star game with this. If he keeps pitching like this, there's now 11 starts into the season, and having your ERA under 2 is pretty impressive. And I mean, heck, the big picture, the cherry on top, 1-0, but the Reds were on the right side of it. That feels good.
I didn't even know that was legal, to tell you the truth.
I thought we had to lose those games.
Games. Listen, in his last 15 starts, right? You're talking about those numbers. 6-1 with a 1.87 ERA, right? Even though he didn't have high strikeout totals, everybody doesn't have to be a power pitcher. He still struck out 5 Guardians in this game yesterday, Jeff, while only walking 1. So it's not overpowering, but he got the strikeouts where he needed them. He let the defense do their thing where it needed to. And this was just really a really good start, just from beginning to end. Should he be an all-star? Yeah, it's going to be hard to argue against him. I think the problem we're going to run into with the all-star team is there's going to be like 25 Los Angeles Dodgers on the 30-man roster. So yeah. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but there are several Reds. We keep talking about this. We talked yesterday about TJ Friedl being deserving. Andrew Abbott is deserving. I think now at this point, Hunter may not be back. So, he may be out of the conversation, and Major League Baseball is going to want Elly De La Cruz there. Right now, Elly, I think, has an OPS plus of about 115. He's about 15% better than league average right now. So that, in my mind, could get him selected. I don't think he's going to get voted in based on some of the other guys at the shortstop position and the way that just the votes are going to break. But this could be a bumper crop year for Cincinnati Reds at the All-Star game if guys keep playing like they've been playing.
It's been a few years since multiple guys have gone, but I think Andrew Abbott's making a really good case. And I mean, we said it yesterday, but I think it bears repeating the fact that year over year, he has increased his strikeout rate by a huge margin, and he has lowered his walk rate. So he's done the good thing in both categories. It feels like, usually we talk about some guys and we say, okay, he's good at one, now he needs to bring the other along. But I think that Andrew Abbott has kind of done both. And for me, Steve, and I don't know where you are on Andrew Abbott, because it feels like we always talk about Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. We talked a lot about Nick Martinez this year because he took the qualifying offer. We talked a lot about who the fifth starter is on this team. Brady Singer is obviously an interesting guy because he's a brand new Red. And oh, by the way, there's this guy named Andrew Abbott that's just hanging out here. He's obviously a part of the rotation. In fact, I remember, with the injury and all that stuff, there was some wondering at the beginning of the season, Steve, is Andrew Abbott going to be part of the starting rotation? Does he deserve to be part of the starting rotation? I think he's so much better than what you or I or anyone really expected him to be.
I really thought he would be in the same lane with Brady Singer, just a kind of a Mr. Consistent, go out there, get it done. Nothing overwhelming, nothing spectacular, but just a solid major league starter. And we had him penciled in at the 4 spot, right? That's where we stuck him in this rotation, the number 4 guy, obviously Hunter and Nick Lodolo, and then Brady Singer, because he's the veteran in the middle there. Then Andrew Abbott, followed by Nick Martinez. That's how we broke it down opening day. That order is shuffled right now. All guys being healthy, Abbott's my number 2 on this team right now.
Yep.
If I got to pick a 1-2 punch to open a series in a playoff series with everybody healthy right now, I'm throwing Hunter Green in game 1 and I'm throwing Abbott in game 2.
He's slightly better on the FIP. We talk about ERA a lot, but his fielding independent pitching is better than Nick Lodolo's is. And so that's kind of an overarching number that looks at his performance and everything that he can control. I'd say the one thing he's got to work on a little bit more, but this is something that we said about Hunter Green as well, is keep the ball on the ground on a more consistent basis. I mean, we saw it there. The very last out of the game was about as stressful as you could be, because I thought Carlos Santana hit that ball out. I thought that was a home run, but it was just enough that Cleveland's Park held it, and Will Benson made an amazing catch to get to that ball. But overall, though, Steve, just a great night for him, and a really celebratory night for him, because that felt like his game. As much as the gloves helped him out, he did such a good job of keeping the Reds right where they needed to be, because we do this all the time, right? Where like the pitching is good, but it's not good enough. The hitting is okay, but it's not okay enough. The fielding is that. On Monday night, June the 10th of the year of our Lord 2025, every aspect of the Cincinnati Reds was good enough to get a win, and Andrew Abbott was the catalyst of that.
Well, and the offense, again, driven by the outfielders, Benson's double, followed by, Spencer Steer brings him around. Also, kudos to Terry Francona for leaving Andrew Abbott in this game. I'm 100% that David Bell would not have left Andrew Abbott in this game. I love that Terry kind of trusted his gut and let his guy go out there and try and get it done. This is something that Andrew Abbott will file in his memory banks that will come in handy later, will come in handy in September, October, hopefully in a playoff series where Andrew Abbott needs to reach back. And he knows in the back of his mind, hey, you know what? I can throw 9 innings. I can throw 110 pitches and throw a complete game. I know how to do this. I think this was a tremendous step forward for him personally as a major league pitcher, and for the team as Andrew Abbott, the pitcher in this rotation.
And I think it was important too, to even, and something he will remember is his ability that even in the 9th inning, after he crossed the century mark, he was still dotting the corner with that breaking ball. He was still locating everything that he had. His changeup was still amazing. That there was no fall off for him at that point. And oh, by the way, this comes on the heels of his worst start of the season. He really got hit around by Milwaukee in his most recent outing. Heck of a way to bounce back.
Yeah, I told you he was going to come out with a chip on his shoulder today.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And that was an amazing start. And I totally forgot that I was going to get us out of this segment, but Andrew Abbott should be an all-star. All right, Steve, now that we're out of the segment, let's talk about what's coming up next, because is Andrew Abbott the next guy to get a contract? We're going to play a game coming up Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Monarch Money is the way that I am financially thriving right now because I see all of my accounts on one screen. I don't need all the different logins for this or that or the other. My debit account, my credit account, my investment accounts are all in one place. And they've got all these useful tools. I mean, I really love the spending tracking, really showing me exactly where my money is going because sometimes, right, like you're like, well, where'd it go? But it also gives you insights and things like that as to how to grow your savings. So start thriving and start building wealth with the financial command center that is Monarch Money. Plus, if you go to monarchmoney.com today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll save 50% off your first year. That's half off your first year just by typing in the promo code LOCKEDONMLB over at Monarch Money. So go thrive financially with Monarch Money. Thank you for always making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you are not an everydayer, make sure you hit that subscribe button, become an everydayer, and join us each and every day throughout the season as we give you a lot of great Reds content. It's coming your way as we head toward the trade deadline, as we go through the draft, as we hopefully get toward a playoff run. We're going to be with you every step of the way. And so will Tim Daniel on the Reds Postcast live at the end of every ball game. Check out Tim Daniel right here on the Reds YouTube channel and in your audio feed shortly thereafter. All right, Steve. So I think we've mentioned Andrew Abbott before as a potential contract extension candidate. I mean, obviously he's still on his rookie deal. Pretty much everybody on this team's on their rookie deal except for a couple of guys. So there's a lot of opportunity for contract extensions. So we're going to play a game. You get to pick one. The reason you get to pick one is because we're the Cincinnati Reds fans here. We know what's going on. This organization, they're not going to just go sign everybody on the roster. That would take money. But they've got enough money for one guy. And this also entails likelihood of signing a contract. So, yes, obviously Ellie De La Cruz, but obviously Scott Boras is saying, nah, baba, nah, this guy's going to free agency. So, who you picking?
All right, if I got to go with signability, and first, just real quick, I want to tease something that I watched last night. I shared this on my social media feed on X, but after you're done with this show, jump over to the Locked On MLB feed, either in the audio or on the YouTube. Our guy Sully did an entire Cincinnati Reds show yesterday, talking about Joe Nuxall making his major league debut at age 15, talking about how Cincinnati could be one of the most important teams in Major League Baseball regionally, talking about the ownership. It is a great episode. Get over there and check it out. I watched the whole thing last night and really, really enjoyed it. Now, to your question, who am I going after? I, as you know, am incapable of giving you a straightforward answer. So what I'm going to say is that I want them to take another run at Tyler Stephenson.
Yes.
I want them to try one more time. Now, I think they might be far apart and it might not be possible, in which case you've got to look at trading Tyler in the offseason. But I would like them to make one more run at extending him to keep him around, because he's now in the window. If we're following the Tampa model, where if he doesn't sign an extension this year, you've got to trade him in the offseason, or you got to trade him. So I want him to make a run at Tyler. If they can't get that done, then yeah, Andrew Abbott's probably your next guy that gets a Hunter Green type extension as far as structure goes. I'm not saying the numbers will be exactly the same financially, but that same kind of structure where you limit the amount of damage you're going to get each year in arbitration. You buy an extra year or two on the back end at a higher value to keep him around just a little bit longer before he hits free agency. I could see Andrew Abbott getting that type of extension. So that's what I would do. I would make a legitimate, serious, best I could offer at Tyler Stephenson to try to extend him. And if that's a non-starter again, then I go straight to Andrew Abbott.
I will say, so Abbott's part of the pre-arbitration group. There's definitely several players in that group that includes Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McLain. And you've also got Christian Encarnacion Strand in there as well, that it's a little bit tough. I mean, you would buy out all of their arbitration years and add a year to it. I think for me, because Tyler Stephenson is a key answer here, and I still don't know why he hasn't been signed. Like, I think it's strange that we've gotten to this point where you're right. Like, we're creeping up on the Rays deadline for things. And we're also creeping up on the Rays deadline, and not really creeping up on it because he's brand new, but Gavin Lux as well. Gavin Lux is also a free agent after next season. So he would be another interesting candidate. I think he's a little bit more of a dark horse for that sort of a thing, especially because I feel like he's underappreciated in this lineup because he's not a power hitter, and he's not going to be a power hitter, but he's a solid hitter. He is the maybe the team captain of team all good piece of hitting, because I just really feel like that's who he is. So I think that he would be an interesting candidate as well. For my money, though, Steve, if I'm looking at who I want the Reds to sign long-term, I think it's got to be reaching down and getting Matt McLain, because I don't think his value is ever going to be this low. I think he's going to bounce back. I think that he is going to be that guy. He's going to have a meteoric rise for the rest of this year. Like, we're going to do that thing. We do this thing sometimes, and mostly it's my fault, but we do this thing sometimes where we're just like, man, it was first half, second half with that guy, right? Like, first half was second half was whoa. Like the most recent example, and it's not a dramatic example or even a sexy example, but the most recent example is Santiago Espinal. Like, Santiago Espinal's first 2 months of 2024, you could have just kicked him to the curb and we wouldn't have cared. But then he hit like 350 for the final 3 months of the season, and he was a key member of this team. And I feel like that's going to be the sort of conversation we have about Matt McLain by the end of it. If I'm looking ahead, I'm thinking Matt McLain's going to jump up. So let's sign him now. His value is never going to be lower.
That's a very interesting take, Jeff, because previously Matt McLain was represented by Scott Boras, and he is no longer represented by Scott Boras. He's with Greg Jensky and the Vayner Sports Group, right? So,
and that's not to say that means that negotiations are
that
easier.
Doesn't necessarily mean
they're possible, at least.
But Scott Boras, short of just saying, I am never going to let any of my clients sign an extension, basically said, I'm never going to let my clients sign an extension. So
never say never, but I just said
there's a
never.
less than 0% chance, right? So
right.
It's very interesting to me. I like your logic there. Now I can imagine the comment section is just going to absolutely blow up right now with some pushback. And if you have thoughts, get in the comment section. Actually, who would you offer the extension to and why? Let us know. I'm real curious to see what the everydayers think about this, because that's a reasonable idea, Jeff. I mean, I don't have a lot of pushback against this, because I think you're right. One is probably it. Maybe there's an outside shot at 2 somewhere as far as extensions go, but that's an interesting approach, because if you get it done semi soon while he's still figuring it out, maybe you get a bit of a deal.
I want the Reds to surprise us with this. I want Nick Krall to be announcing contract extension after contract extension this offseason. In fact, as much as I want them to go make a couple of moves this offseason, they have kind of set themselves up really nicely that maybe the most impactful thing that they can do is lock up some of the core this offseason. That's going to be a conversation we have a lot more later on this year, but I really believe that they've got a shot here to sign multiple guys, which in that case, I definitely want it to be Stephenson and McLain. But I see the logic now of the Jose Trevino signing, because they at least have somewhat, it's not the softest cushion in the world, because then you really are kind of putting yourself up a creek without a paddle, because Trevino's long-term success is not necessarily indicative of what he's done right now. But at the same time, you're not dying.
Right. And there is one other piece to this as far as why Stephenson makes the most sense. Stephenson's now in the window as far as the Tampa model goes.
Yes.
You also need to address that during this collective bargaining agreement.
Yes.
You can't wait. Everybody else we've talked about, you can wait and see how the new CBA plays out. You can see if there's going to be a salary cap. You can see if there's going to be a salary floor. You can kind of see
Which
what's
might be an argument
happen.
Against Matt McLain too,
right?
Actually.
With everybody else but Tyler Stephenson, because he's in the window right now.
And
so if you can sign Ty Steve to a 2-year deal, 2-year extension, and then revisit it after the new CBA, that would be, I think, the best for everybody involved. Guarantees Tyler a little bit of money, and then he gets to hit free agency under whatever the new system is. So that's one other thing to keep in mind, because I have long speculated now, 2 seasons I've been talking about this, that it just felt to me like the Reds were setting up all of these contracts to be able to kind of kick the can past the looming labor negotiation, kick the can past that, and then do everything under the new system versus what some of these other guys are doing, signing these massive contracts that may not necessarily even be an option depending on how these labor negotiations pan out. So I could see it kind of going that way, and them just addressing Ty Steve because he's the only one you really can't wait on.
The other interesting thing about Ty Steve, and we'll get out of this segment here, Steve, but the other interesting thing about him is his first year under the new contract. So his rookie contract takes him through his age 29 season. He'll be 30 years old. So again, this is not a 6, 7, 9, 10-year deal that you need to sign with him. Just a couple of years. Buy out a few more.
All right, Jeff. Well, as fun as that is to think about, and hopefully you're right, the Reds do get something done, at least for somebody. The Reds are playing some good baseball right now, and they have the opportunity to get their second straight sweep in a row. Nick Lodolo's on the mound for the Reds today, and we're going to tell you what he needs to do to get the second sweep secured. We got that coming up next. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. For the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. All of that at supplyhouse.com. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed in the audio feeds. We are seriously on just about every single podcasting app out there. So subscribe there. Take us in the car, take us to the gym, take us on the road with you. That way you never miss a single episode. All right, Jeff, the Reds are going for their second straight sweep in a row. They have got the Guardians on the ropes, already secured a series win, looking for a sweep of the entire season. Didn't think we were going to be there. Way to go, Tito. And here we are with Nick Lodolo on the mound. And when you look at this matchup between the Reds and the Guardians on a getaway day, on paper, seemingly the Reds have the advantage here. Now, we talked about the fact that they should have hit the ball around yesterday and didn't, but, one was enough. Way to go, Andrew Abbott. Nick Lodolo has an opportunity to continue to keep this Guardian lineup in check and get the Reds out of here with a season sweep of Cleveland.
He does, and he's got an interesting challenge ahead of him just because he's been so up and down this season. Like, I think it's important to note that the successes he has had has been buoyed by some interesting concerns, mostly on the underlying numbers. Steve, he actually is a little bit worse than league average when it comes to average exit velocity. The expected numbers aren't so great on him. His strikeout rate is low, but the one thing he's not doing, he's not beating himself. Walk rate is elite. We're talking like top 5% in the league when it comes to walk rate. Everything else, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say concern because that makes it seem as though he's been bad. He's not been bad. He's just been inconsistent. And I think that this Guardians lineup, as much as Jose Ramirez poses a massive challenge, everybody else kind of feels like you can really go after in this game. So I'm curious to see how he pitches Jose Ramirez as opposed to everybody else, because this seems like the kind of game that he can get right on the mound a little bit.
Yeah, you're talking about some of his numbers looking really good. That walk rate, strikeouts per 9 right now is at 7.6. I would like to see that up a little bit. I hope that comes along. But that walks per 9, 1.7 right now, Jeff. 1.7 walks per 9 innings. It's really, really good. Nick Lodolo is a curious case because he still just doesn't quite look comfortable on the mound. And I don't know how to quantify that, but watching him pitch versus how we've seen him pitch in the past, when he's dialed in and throwing that back foot breaker, basically, pre-blister, if you want to see when Nick Lodolo looked comfortable. So I think he is still dealing with changed grips. I think he is still dealing with changed arm slots, and he's still not quite comfortable, having had to tweak everything he did to avoid the continued blister problem. That's what I think's going on with him. I think he's going to get there. I think he's going to figure it out, but he hasn't looked just quite right since he started tweaking things because of those reoccurring injuries.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The eye test is still very out on him. I wouldn't say that like the eye test is saying bad things, but it's also not saying good things either. It's kind of like
something's off. The eye test is saying something's off.
Something's off. And speaking of something's off, as much as Logan Allen has looked like he's been off this season, he does that thing, Steve. He does the thing that Reds hitters hate. What's that thing?
Oh, he's a soft tossing lefty.
He's a soft tossing lefty, yes. And which means we will get the lesser version of the two Reds lineups when it comes to a starting pitcher. I almost wonder if a little bit, Steve, I wonder if Stephen Vogt really tries to manage the heck out of this game and like maybe even throws an opener, because Logan Allen's had a couple of starts here recently where he hasn't thrown a ton of innings. So is this a opportunity for him to kind of mess with Tito a little bit before the Reds get out of town? I'd be interested to see how he plays that. But at the same time, like, the Reds have just not been good against left-handed pitchers this year. They are batting .215 collectively with an OPS of 636. They've got a slugging percentage that would make Santiago Espinal go, man, it's kind of low, at 336. And I think that this is something that they have missed Christian Encarnacion Strand a lot with, but they've also missed Austin Hayes. And I know that that's kind of been reported. I don't know if we'll see it. There's not been anything as of recording that he is back. So I would love to see him in this lineup, because that means we don't have one of Connor Joe or Garrett Hampson, which, quite frankly, Steve, there's a little bit of me that's like, okay, I've looked for any possible silver lining with the two of these players, and Connor Joe kind of sort of a little bit hits lefties a little bit, tiny bit. So maybe that's okay. But man, I'd love to have Austin Hayes in this lineup right now.
Yeah. Last I heard just on that, sounds like Detroit. He's going to join the team in Detroit. So get through this getaway game today, and then we get Austin Hayes back. And I think I have to agree with you. The next guy out's got to be Hampson, right? That has to be the next move.
If it's not him, like if it's Connor Joe instead of him, I'm going to be like, well, okay, yeah, maybe, sure, whatever. Like 6, 1.5 dozen the other. If it's not one of those two guys, then I got some real big questions after that, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. But yeah, the right-handed lineup, the right-handed heavy lineup that we will see to start this game does not include two of the more pivotal guys in these first two games. The first two games have included moments from Jake Fraley and from Will Benson that we will not see, because they do not hit lefties. As much as Tito might want to test that out every so often, he's not going to test it out for multiple at-bats. So we're not going to see either one of those guys start this game. So hopefully, if the Reds don't hit Logan Allen, which is likely to happen because they don't hit soft tossing lefties, at least make him throw a lot of pitches and chase him early, get into that Guardians bullpen, and see if we can get Benson and Fraley into this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. That should be the approach. And really, the Reds need for Nick Lodolo to be good Nick Lodolo. That's really going to be the whole thing hinges on that. If Nick Lodolo can be good Nick Lodolo, a couple runs might get it done. And that's kind of where we're painted into a corner with a soft toss and lefty on the mound. So, I would be fine with a low scoring game that the Reds win.
And I do. Hey, they've done that. That's good. I do want to say this too. I want to put this out there, because I think that this pretends good things whenever we say this. But look, if they don't end up sweeping, they've been playing with house money in this game. Mm-hmm. They're going to play with a lot of house money in this game. And if they don't end up sweeping, we're not jumping on tomorrow and yelling obscenities onto the camera. It's just not going to happen, because they've played really well here recently, and they're coming in with a lot of momentum, and hopefully They can carry that over, get the sweep, go to Detroit, and just with their hair on fire, see what they can do against the best team in the American League right now. But they've taken care of business. They've taken care of business. I love it.
Boy. Oh boy. You know, you're right. It's not the end of the world. Getting sweeps is hard. That doesn't mean I don't want it though. I would love
Getting
for them to head to Detroit with back-to-back sweeps and getting a season sweep on the Guardians. I love that for Tito. It's going to be a fun one. We'll be back here. That's where we're going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back in your feeds tomorrow, getting you set for that Detroit Tigers series and hopefully talking to you about a season sweep of the Cleveland Guardians. Thanks for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. Check out the Locked On MLB channel. I told you about the show. Sully's got in there for you. And then if you've not checked out this other new show, Jeff, tell them a little bit about being able to find out every single thing that's going on in baseball every single night.
Every game, every night. That's Locked On MLB Game Night. It's on the Locked On MLB feed there with Sully on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel and on the Locked On MLB audio feed. Go check those guys out today. But Steve, as far as we're concerned, thank you so much for checking out this episode. That's going to do it for us. You can always trust that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
I was so right about Andrew Abbott. My goodness.
It's been a while since the Reds have swept the Guardians or swept Cleveland as a whole. I don't know. Maybe I will be mad if they don't. In fact, they've never swept Cleveland. Anyway, whatever.
There you go.